Right, welcome everyone. This is now session 10. So in our last session we completed the site plan. Now there's just a couple of little things I'd like you to change on the site plan that relate to the dimensions, and I'll go through those in a minute. Also, once we finish the site plan, we're going to move on to the elevations. And I'm just a little bit conscious of time now, because after today we only have 4 sessions left. So we've still got quite a bit to get through for this project. So the way I'm going to sort of run from here is that once we start the elevations, I'm going to give you some guidance on setting up the elevation views. And that will go for the sections as well. So I'll give you some guidance on setting up the views, and then I'll actually get you to come back and put the notes and dimensions and tags on yourself, quite possibly in your own time. So we won't sort of devote too much class time for annotation, so just so that we can sort of get things moving a little bit quicker, because as I say, we still have a fair bit to do, because we have to do elevations, sections, we have to do a 1:20 detail, we have to produce a couple of shadow plans based on the site. We have to create some door and window schedules, we have to create a 3D perspective view, and then we have to sort of generate some notes, and then we have to put all the sheets together. So there's a lot to do. Okay. Alright, so I will be asking you to do some work in your own time. Alright. I'm hoping that that's okay with everybody, providing you've got access. If you don't have a computer at home, then obviously you'll need to come into TAFE and use one of the machines here when you can. Alright, so just before I talk about, or just come back to the little switch around with the dimensions, one of the things that you'll find as you're looking through your other views, so that the plan complete, for instance, you'll actually see a tree here or there that's snuck in on your floor plan. If you actually untick crop view and zoom out, you'll actually see the property line there and all the other trees. So the thing is that, and I guess this is really just the way Revit works, is that pretty well all categories are visible in all views by default. And it's just a natural order of things that you'll have to open up, go into other views that you've created previously, and the technical term is clean them up. Okay, so you've got to obviously identify things that shouldn't be there and turn them off by category. All right, and that also includes things like room separation lines that will perhaps only really show themselves when you print or do a print preview. So what we might perhaps do just quickly is in the floor plan view, perhaps just select certain objects like property lines and things like trees here, and just hide them by category. So I'll get you to do that now. Just do that quickly.
This is an entirely complete.
This is our floor plan, main floor plan complete. So You will have to have a look at the demolition plan as well. There could be, there's a property line that's snuck in there. So that has to be hidden by category. And if you see any trees in there, you'll have to hide that, that category as well, which is planting. Plan existing is probably not so important. It's just mainly the views that are going to go onto a sheet, ultimately. So just, at this stage it's the floor plan and the demolition plan and the existing. When you've done that, just come back to the site plan and we'll have a look at the alterations to the dimensions I spoke about. Now, if we just go back to learn, to part 2, I've updated the site plan, the A102. I've just made updated the dimensioning on the site plan example sheet. And I've also updated the PDF sheet here that you used to generate the site plan. But if we have a look at the example sheet, the minor change that I'd like you to make is see this dimension running through here. I'd like you to change that back to the type which was the type we used in the floor plan, which is the tick type, the dimension style that has the word tick in it. And I'd like you to include or add the word setback underneath, not as a separate piece of text, but to actually add that as part of the dimension parameter or amount. The other thing I'd like you to do is note this, this additional dimension here. See this one here that says 1000 and then the word setback, just a single dimension here, using the tick style. So in your site, this one is relatively easy to resolve. You don't need to delete it and put it back in again. How would you update that to a different dimension type?
Highlight it and then click on the 2 tick one.
Yeah, so you go, select it, go over to the type selector, and then change it to the alternate type, which is the one that has the word tick in it. Okay. I will get you to, once you've done that, untick leader up here. And I'll just clear that selection, and then just double click on the number itself and put the word setback in the below section. Okay, and we're just going to add a new dimension using the tick style. And I guess before you do that, you'll have to, sorry, before I'll just clear that, I'll stop doing that. Before you do that, you'll have to change the visual style to wireframe. And you will have to very carefully select the filled region on top of the roof. So very carefully select that and do a temporary hide, okay? So you can either do it down here, or you can issue the shortcut, which is double H. Okay, we need to do those two things so that we can actually add this additional dimension from to the wall. Just bring it out here and place it. And once it's placed, just clear that. Once it's placed, just double click on the number, and in the suffix, type the word setback. Now, once you've done that, you will have to click on the text itself again, and then using your drag bubble, just move it out to about there, and untick leader. Now, the only other change that I'd like you to make that is dimension related, I'll just turn off thick lines here. Now, the only other change I'd like you to make is, see this dimension here that I'm highlighting? I'd like it to run the other way. Okay, so in other words, the arrow is going to actually be on the left-hand side, not the right-hand side. Now, there's no, I don't think there's any way of flipping it. Oh, yes, there is. Hit the space bar. Okay, so that was a fluke, wasn't it? I didn't know that would. So yeah, so that's an easy one.
Top as well.
Sorry.
I also had the arrows up the top that you just flipped.
Oh, okay, yeah.
My front has got the double arrows over there, so I just
yeah, it has. Yeah, so I haven't tried that one, so that's good. So if you actually select it and hit the space bar or click the double arrows, it'll flip it the other way. Now, and also, see this piece of text here? I think I'm going to change that from proposed landscape into proposed extension. That seems to make more sense. Because these dimensions are set out dimensions for the extension itself. As measured from the boundary and as measured from the existing building. Okay, so if you just make those few changes and we'll move on. So to get back to your normal view, you can either go down to the little glasses down here and choose Reset Temporary Height Isolate, or use the shortcut which is HR, Hide Reverse. And remember, you can use shortcuts for changing your visual style. So wireframe is WF, hidden line is HL. So you know, if you can remember a few more shortcuts, it's just going to make working a lot quicker. So HR and HL, the back. Okay, so when you've done that, I'll get you to open up your north elevation. So we're going to now, again using my technical term, tidy up this view and the other elevation views. But we're going to do this one first. So I'm going to show you a quite a clever technique which will help us to very quickly set up our other three views once we've done this one. So to get this view ready to go onto a sheet, even before we put our notes, tags and dimensions on it, what sort of things do we have to do?
the level wording, so you can actually separate the ceiling.
So we're going to have to sort out the level heads so they're not overlapping. What else do we do?
You have to crop the view.
What's it say?
Yes, so we have to turn on the crop region and bring the crop in. That's good. What else?
The plantings.
Get rid of the trees.
Oh, that's a pity.
Does the dimension stay there?
I'll actually just remove that one. That shouldn't be there anyway. Yes, that's good. Get rid of that one. We will put that dimension back in again, but using the correct style. So get rid of the trees. Anything else?
The section line.
Good. Section line. That needs to be hidden, but not deleted.
And the existing house is still, would you have to bring that back to being?
The existing dwelling is still half-tone, so how do we fix that?
I'd be going in and
It's literally a mouse click.
Show complete.
properties.
Show complete.
Yeah, so it's the phase filter.
That's the
So
one.
the phase filter for pretty much all views now will be set to show complete. So that means that all line work is black rather than some half tone. So these are the sort of things we need to do to actually tidy up this particular elevation. So can I get you, don't worry about the section heads at the moment, but can I get you to hide by category and what we've just discussed, and also change the phase filter of the view. Shortcut for hiding by category? Anyone?
Oh, that's it. Right click.
Quicker than that?
I think it's VH.
Sorry?
I think it's VH.
VG.
It is VH. So it's either two fingers or one finger twice. 2 letters, typing 2 letters, VH. So you select an item of that category and type VH, and they go. So we're looking at the quickest way possible to achieve these things. Same with the section line, VH, and it's gone. That category's gone. The phase filter, done through the view properties. Now, having a look at, going back to learn, to part 2, there is an example sheet there for the elevations. So this is going to be your ultimate guide for the elevations and what's required in terms of the section, the way that we're going to deal with the section heads, the way we're going to separate them, the way they're going to look when they're separated. And also, what else about the section heads? What do we notice with the 4 views in regard to the section heads? What's different about the views with the level lines and section heads?
The leaders are on the opposite side.
Yeah, so two of the elevation views, the leaders are on the left-hand side, aren't they? Okay, so the north, the one we're looking at the moment, they're not the north, but the north is. So north and east have them on the left, and the south and west on the right. Now, the way that I have set up these what I call the section heads, is exactly the way I'd like you to do them. Alright, so remember, with this particular assessment task, you're going to replicate these views exactly. Alright, as close as you possibly can to my examples. In terms of the way the notes are put on, their relative positions, what they're pointing to, the dimensions that are used, placed here. We're going to tag this window here. We're going to put on wall tags, various dimensions, incorporating text into those dimensions in some cases. Alright, so ultimately when you put your elevation sheet together, it's going to look exactly like that. Not a lot of work, but it is, you know, there is a bit of work there to do. But as I said earlier, I'm going to help you to get these views set up, and then I'm going to ask you to sort of put the annotation on, perhaps in your own time. So please, when you're putting your elevations together, when you're doing your annotation and so forth and dimensioning, refer to these, refer to this sheet. Now, it's the north elevation we're looking at, so the first thing I'll show you is, and you've probably forgotten how to do this. Does anyone know how to swap these level heads over? So when you select one of them, you have a little tick box over here, which controls the visibility. So if you untick it, it turns it off on this side. And if you go across and to the other side, with that level line selected and re-tick, it puts it on the left-hand side. So that's that would be one of the first things I would do. Is just bring those across. And just make sure they're turned off on this side. Now, just again, coming back to this example sheet here, notice that there is a thickish black line that sits along the ground line level. Okay, so I'm going to get you to actually draw a detail line under the elevations, and it will actually be drawn along the GL level line, and it will extend beyond the elevation a certain amount either side. So they'll be drawn as detail lines, but what I'd like you to do is to actually create a new line style for this purpose. And we're going to create a new line style. We're going to call it ground line, and then add it as a detail line. So perhaps we'll do that before we get too much, or go too much further. So can I get you to create a new line style called ground line, line weight 6, so it's going to be very thick, a bit like the property lines, colour black, pattern solid. So if you do that now, and then we'll actually draw in our first ground line in this north elevation. Okay, so a relatively simple one to set up. All you're really doing is creating the lines, the new line style, and changing the line weight to 6, which just means it's a very thick line. So, ground line. Okay. So, once you've done that, you'll then go to annotate detail line, select ground line in the line style here, and so that you can see it, I'll get you to actually turn on your thick lines up here. And it doesn't matter, don't be too fussy about where it stops and starts, but just sort of start it over here and take it across to about here. Okay? Just running along the ground line level. Okay, when you've done that, I'll get you to zoom out and just turn on your crop region. Okay, zoom out, turn on your crop region. Okay, and we can just bring that one in. Oops. Now the bottom line of the crop region, okay, the bottom line of the crop region needs to actually line up on and needs to be put directly on top of the ground line level. Okay, so the bottom of the crop region goes directly on top of the ground line level. Okay, don't take it up any higher than that because you'll actually lose the level itself, it won't be visible. And adjust the crop region in so it looks like that. So this is the, I guess this is the preferred sequence of doing these things. And the last thing to do would be then to add an elbow to each of your, add an elbow to the upper level line, the new FCL, and add an elbow to the GL, and then pull them up or pull them away from the other level lines so that they look like this. So that ultimately that's what you want to achieve with the level heads in the north elevation. and in fact all elevations. So, so the upper one there, you're going to put an elbow in, and then take it up, and then just make the create this offset, and the vertical part of the offset, or this part of the offset, will be vertical, as will the GL one, and this part of the level line will actually line up exactly with this one, so they'll be along the same line. Okay, and just try and sort of get your spacing nice and even, so that this is all quite readable. So just use this as a guide. Does everyone know how to add the elbow in the level line?
Yep. The little story thing.
Yeah, it's sometimes a little bit hard to see, but you have to select the level line, and then you've got a little squiggle in here called Add Elbow. It's just here. So it then puts this kink in it, and you'll then use your shake handle or your little drag bubble to take that up. When you are adjusting these level lines, you will get an alignment path, for instance, from the lower one up to the upper one, so you can line them up. See the alignment path there? And as I said earlier, now that I've turned on thick lines, see the brown dashed line through here? Okay, everyone seeing that? Thick brown dashed line. So this is another category to actually hide. So these are that's what I was saying earlier, room separation lines. They tend to sort of creep into our views. So just, if you can, try and select just the separation line and do a hide and view by category. So we've now done a little bit of work to tidy up this particular elevation. We've added a ground line, we've adjusted the crop region, and we've made some changes to the levels insofar as that we've swapped the level heads over from one side to the other, and we've actually put elbows in to make the level names and so forth more readable. Now, just a general question, in terms of display and the way a view presents in Revit, what sort of controls have we used and can we use to change the way a view appears in Revit? So what are some of the...
Phasing?
Sorry?
Using the phasing.
Yes, we can use phasing to change the some aspect of the view. What else?
Underlays.
Underlays, yes. What else?
Crop regions.
Crop regions, yes. That will limit the view. Not so much, not what I was sort of getting at basically, but what else? What other tools or settings can we change to change aspects of the view?
Like course, medium, fine, that sort of stuff.
Sorry?
Course, medium, and fine, is that?
Yes, detail level, that's good.
The graphic display too, like shaded and stuff.
Shading, yes. What else? What have we done to this view to tidy it up? We've hidden things. So we've hidden things by category. How would you actually get, how would you unhide those things if you wanted to see them again?
Visibility graphics.
Yeah, so if I asked you to turn those trees back on, how would you do it?
Visibility graphics.
Yeah, so you'd open up a dialog, visibility graphics. What else does that allow us to do? It's divided up into model categories, annotation categories. We can show or hide AutoCAD drawings. We can use filters, for instance. So this is like our master control for this view. Okay, we can override line styles and line thicknesses. We can make things half tone by category. We can do all sorts of things here. And what we do here relates solely to the view that we're in. Is everyone okay with that? So we're talking about view-related controlling or controls. So apart from visibility graphics, what other set or group of controls can we use? Where are they?
Plus, down the bottom left.
Down here?
Yep.
Yep. So the view control bar, good. So mainly these down here and visibility graphics. So why am I asking you all these questions? Well, the thing is that as far as a view is concerned, we may go to great lengths to actually set a view up in Revit. And wouldn't it be nice to be able to capture all those settings and apply those settings to another view? Which means we wouldn't have to go through the setup that we've gone through with this one. You know, turning things off, changing detail levels, changing annotation scales, changing phase filters. So ultimately, if you've got 4 elevations to set up, you'll go through the process 4 times. So wouldn't it be nice if we just went through it once and then had some way of actually sort of applying those settings to the other 3? Well, we have. Okay, and we're starting to use the software more productively now. And time is precious. We need to be able to use systems and mechanisms that speed things up. So I guess the aspect or the technique that we're going to use, or the tool we're going to use, is something called a view template. So I guess you'll know that when you start a new drawing in Revit, you start with a project template, which gives you a whole collection of settings, views and so forth to use without doing too much work. Well, within a project template, you can actually use things called view templates, which can be used to overlay your views and change them quite quickly once they're all set up. So the view template essentially incorporates visibility graphics, all the display controls, things like phase filters and other settings. And the thing is that once you've set up one view, you can then, as I said, you can actually capture the settings from that view and produce a unique view template to apply to your other views, in this case the other elevations. So that's exactly what we're going to do now. The only thing that the view template won't do is adjust your crop region, draw your detail line. This is the things it won't do, and it won't swap your level heads and set them up. These are things you still have to do manually, but it will obviously apply things like, it'll turn categories on and off and change phase filters and add shadowing and backgrounds and all sorts of things. Okay, so from this current view, we're going to generate a view template. Now on the view tab, over here, you'll see there's a button here called View Templates. So this is where we don't need to go into View Templates just yet, but to make changes, yes. But to create a view template from this current view, which is the north elevation, it's a simple case of going to the browser here, right mouse clicking on north. In the pop-up menu, you've got Apply Template Properties, and you've got Create View Template from View. Did everyone see that? So what we do is we choose the Create View Template from View, and we give the view template a name. So we're just going to call this one what? Elevations? Seems logical. What I'd like you to do is actually personalise the template name and get you to put your initials in it as well. Because the thing is that within the project template that we use, there are a whole range of pre-configured view templates, and there could be one in there called elevations. So we want to make this one unique so that we know that this is ours. So click OK, and this will bring up the view template dialog. On the left here, you can see that you've got all of the view templates that are contained within the project template on the left. They are divided up by discipline. So that being discipline just means architectural, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, and so forth. So they're specific to a discipline. And within architectural, we've got view type or view filter types. So we've got elevations, floor, ceiling plans, 3D views, and walkthroughs, for instance. Now the one we've just created, called elevations here, obviously sits underneath this view type. So providing we've got this one highlighted, you'll see that all the changes that we've made to the current view here are now reflected in the settings here in View Properties. So you can see things like the view scale, the detail level, see this visibility graphics overrides model, annotation, filters. So when you click on these things, it opens up a familiar dialog box. Okay? And we can go through and we can make further changes if required. And if you scroll down, you can see you've got phase filter, discipline, hidden lines, and so forth, background lighting, shadows, all that type of thing. So there's all of these aspects of the view you can change within the view filter, or the view template, sorry. So that's really all we need to do. So we've now got our view template. So we can close this dialog, nothing's going to happen to our current view because all of these settings have been already been changed here. But if we open up the south elevation, for instance, open up the south elevation, and over in the view properties, in the properties of this view, if you go down to identity data, you'll see here you've got view template, which has a button next to it that says none. So there's no. So effectively, with view templates, once you've created them, you can then apply them to other views or assign them to other views. So, and it's not until you actually assign a view template to a view, I guess it does two things. Obviously it changes the view once it's been applied, but there is another benefit to assigning a view template, the same view template, to multiple views. So we click on the None button, which opens up this dialog again, and then we go down and we choose our view template, elevations. And when you click apply, see how the view changes instantly? So essentially what we do is we just systematically go through open up each elevation and assign our new view template to that elevation. Okay, so it has an immediate effect. Including the north elevation, which is where we started. I'll actually get you to assign the view template to that one as well. So a lot of the work is done for us. So having done that, I guess the thing is that I'll just close all of my hidden views, just to demonstrate how this works, or I guess now the power and the benefit of using view templates. If I open all of my elevations and I tile them, so I've got them now in 4 separate windows that are all displaying. Now, I guess just as an example, if I wanted to turn the trees on in all 4 views, turn those trees on, I don't necessarily have to go into each view and then open up visibility graphics. What I can do is I can go up to view templates up here, manage view templates, and go across to VG overrides model. Go down to the category, which I know is planting, And let's say I wanted to give them a colour, for instance. Okay, so I go across to lines here, and I change the colour. And apply. Okay. Sorry. The reason that didn't work, which catches me out every time, is the fact that I didn't change to elevations, and I didn't actually highlight the correct view template. Okay, so if you're making a change to a view template that's applied to these views, for instance, obviously you'll need to select that one and then make a change within that template. So planting, tick, override colour, okay, so you can see that through updating one template, oh sorry, better. So see how it has an immediate effect on all views with that template applied? Now the other thing to note is that when a view template is applied to a view, have a look at, just click on your detail level button there, click on visual style down here, the annotation scale, visibility graphics. Notice something. It's all greyed out. It's all greyed out. You can't actually make any changes to the view once the view template has been applied to the view. Okay, so no changes are possible through the normal individual controls of the view. Any change that you need to make to this view needs to be made through the view template itself. Okay. Now the thing is that just another word about view templates. Notice this column here called include. So it has a box with a tick in it beside all of these what we call parameters. Now, if you wanted to perhaps be able to independently control the detail level of your views that have the view template assigned to them, what you can do to actually make this active, this particular parameter, you can actually untick here, and it will make that particular aspect of the view template active in the view. So in other words, you don't have to go through the template controls to actually change the detail level of the view that it's assigned to. So if I click OK there, it just means that I can actually change the detail level, but everything else is greyed out. Okay, so I'm just switching on that particular parameter in these views with this view template applied. Okay, so there may be a need to do that. If you're actually switching between detail levels constantly in these views, you might want to make that active so that it's you're not going through the view template each time. Alright, so what I'll get you to do is, now that you've more or less set up the north elevation, before you put your text, I'm going to get you to set up your other three elevations, but not with text or dimensions just yet. If you get through this quickly, you can start doing it. But once we get our elevations set up to this level, which includes the ground line, the crop region brought in, and the level heads sorted out, once we get our elevation set up to this level, I'm going to go on and get you to set up the section views, okay, and the 1:20 detail. Once all those views are set up, you can then come back and put your annotation on. All right. So just very quickly set up the elevations, and we'll move on to the sections. The view template won't adjust your crop region.
Yeah.
Okay, it won't swap your level heads over, and it won't separate your level heads like that. Okay.
Or detail line.
Sorry.
Or the detail line.
No, it won't. It won't add the detail line. No. So it's only really, as you can see, with the view template applied to these other views, you can sort of see the extent to which it's actually set the view up. So there's still a bit of work to do with level heads and detail lines and so forth, and crop regions. So as I said, when you're setting up your other views, my suggested order of, or my suggested sequence of things to do would be to turn on the crop region, 1, draw your ground line in, which is 2, so just draw that in. Again, don't be too fussy with the length of it, because ultimately what happens when you bring the crop region in, the crop region will automatically crop the detail line. See how it's cropping it? Okay. So draw in your detail line, crop region turned on. I would suggest then adjust your crop region. So make sure that the bottom crop sits on top of the GL level. Bring it in at the sides. And down at the top. At this point, if you have to swap your level heads over, now's the time to actually swap them to the other side, if you have to. This is the south elevation, so they're actually going to stay on this side. And then add your elbows, and then adjust your levels, adjust your heads, separate your heads. When you've done that, you can then turn the crop region off and go on to the next elevation. Alright, just before we have a look at setting up the section views, one thing that we have to do is that the walls of the existing building are going to have a rendered texture coat put over the brickwork, on the brickwork. So the appearance of the existing building is going to be one of a texture coating. So we have to make a change to the walls themselves. Now, if we were to change the appearance of the walls to indicate some sort of texture coating, any ideas how we would do that? Sorry?
That's be a new construction.
A new wall type, you mean?
Yeah, would you do it as a new construction, or would you just
No, we won't change the wall type, but we will actually change some aspect of the existing wall type.
Material.
That was the answer. Material. Very good. So I guess the answer here is that we're going to change the material assigned to the brick part of the wall type. And I guess the thing is that you have done some work with materials. You have had a look at materials in Revit Intro, but can you remember what part of the material controls the pattern of the object? And what is the pattern? What part of the object is the pattern? Is it a surface pattern or a cut pattern? So the thing is that because we need to change the appearance of these walls in elevation, it therefore becomes a surface pattern. But we also need to maintain the cut pattern to indicate that these are still masonry walls. So where do we see the cut pattern? Which view do we see a cut pattern in?
Sectional.
Sections and what else? What other view? Details. What about the plan view? Floor plan. So remember, your masonry walls have a hatching going through them, a diagonal hatch, which is known as a cut pattern. So we only see that pattern when the object is cut through. So what we need to do is we need to assign a new material to our walls. So if I was to ask you to assign a new material to this wall type, what would be the steps involved?
Click on it and edit type.
So click on it and click edit type. Everyone agree? And then what? So do you remember where
The structure.
It is
structure? Yes, yeah. And then
Masonry.
so we've got the layers that make up this wall type. So the layer 1 is the outer brickwork. So we've got a material column here. And to change the material, we actually click into this cell here next to the word brick. So that takes us out to the material browser editor. If you can't see the Autodesk materials down here, you'll need to click this button here, which will actually show or hide the library panel. Okay, so just bring it up so you can see it. If this whole dialog is too small, make it larger. Okay, just resize it all so you can see what's going on. We're going to look for this material. We're going to do a search for that particular material. Render beige textured. When you find it, you're going to add it to the project, and you're going to change the surface pattern to sand and the cut pattern to brickwork. So up here in the search box, we're going to type in the word render, type in the word beige, and you will get two hits down here. So one's textured and one's smooth. So we're looking for the textured one. We're going to add that to the project. Up here, we're going to go across and we're going to click here for the surface pattern and change this to sand. and the cut patterns, we're going to change this one to, say, brickwork. So, yeah, so it would appear that some of the computers in here don't have this particular material, which is odd, but it's a common one, and it would probably come back to a problem in installation if you don't have it. So that one, we've changed the pattern to sand and the cut pattern to brickwork, so we'll OK that, and OK that, and OK. So that changes the wall, the lower walls, but we still need to change these upper walls, these being a different brick of different wall type. So it's just a simple case of going into the type properties, structure. Now that you've actually loaded that new material into your project and you've changed the surface and cut patterns, it's just a simple case of doing another search for it and selecting it and then clicking OK to assign it to this particular wall type. Okay, so you just need to swap the material, and that will then update that wall type as well. So we have a look at the model now. All of our existing walls essentially have this texture coat on them. Alright, so we're going to just go to a break now. When we come back, we'll have a look at setting up the section views. Okay, let's now have a look at getting the section views set up. And within section A, there's also a call out to a detail, which is 1:20. So if we have a look at, go back to Learn and have a look at the sections sheets. So these are our two sections, so A and B. Now note that their display or their size annotation scale is 1:50. And once we get these sections established initially, we then have to go back to them, of course, and add things like notes, room tags, maybe one or two dimensions if required. I can't see at the moment, but no, it's mainly text. But there is a bit of detail that we have to add to the walls and the ceiling space, and over here in the walls over here in section A. Now, when I say detailing, we actually go back to Learn, and we open up the next sheet, which is A107. This will give you an idea. If we zoom into this 1:20 wall detail, you can see that we're going to have to add in essentially things like top plates, lintels, ledges, insulation, cornice, plasterboard lining, insulation through here. So these are all additional what we call detail items. Some are actually components and some are actually just line work that we have to sort of manually add in. So over and above the text, that's what we need to do. So I'm not sure how far exactly we'll get today, but at least we'll get these views set up. Now, I guess the thing is, before you can put your text in to this detail view, obviously you need to put these items in first. So the thing is that these items, the way we're going to do this is we're actually going to add these items to section A and copy them from section A to this 1:20 detail. So do a copy and paste. Just means that we don't have to replicate or, go over and do this work again. So I guess as far as what their relative sizes are and what they are and their placement, their positioning, I would suggest that you refer to this particular detail when you're working with these detail components. And ultimately, you'll have to actually create new types, new sizes. So that the top plate, for instance, and the lintel, the ledger, and the rafter that you're seeing here, is essentially a detail component that is 2D. So it's actually what we call, what I called a detail component family called timber section. And it's just a 2D item that you actually just load, it's preloaded, but you actually just place it in the view, and if necessary you actually create new types and create new types which are different size variations. And they're just overlaid and placed inside the wall to indicate the position of or to indicate the construction and the timber components that are used in that wall itself in its construction. So we'll have a look at that maybe in today's session, certainly in our next session. But for now, if you go back to Revit, and just open up section A from your browser. And we're more or less going to just repeat the same sort of process for the section that we did for the elevation, the first elevation. So we're going to do a tidy up, and we're going to produce a view template from this first section and apply it to the second section. Okay. So in this first section, we're going to have to hide categories. What else do we need to do?
Oh, yeah, how are you things again?
Sorry?
Your levels.
Yes. So, yeah, in this section, we're actually going to swap our levels to the other side. We're going to, so this is currently displaying in thick lines. I'll turn off my thick lines. But this is, the way this is displaying with the solid walls, what would that indicate? See how we've got solid walls here? What would cause that? What setting would?
Detail level.
The detail level. Yes, good. Okay. So the detail level needs to go from coarse to medium. The phase filter needs to be set to show complete if it's not set to show complete. And you'll need to then hide some of these categories. Things like section lines, reference planes, planting, and if you turn on your if I turn my thick lines back on again, you'll actually be able to see the separation lines. So when it comes time for final submission, and you give me your PDF prints, I don't want to see any brown room separation lines in any view. Okay, I'll get a little bit upset if I see them. Okay. Yes, and the other thing we have to do was change the annotation scale to 1:50. So don't forget to do that down here. And what that will do, obviously, it'll actually change the physical size of the level heads. It'll make them half as big. And while we're talking about level heads, we can now perhaps swap them to the other side. Sorry, mine's a little bit temperamental. It's just, for some reason, it's hard to get that. So once you've swapped your level heads over and you've then separated them at the elbows, you can then just bring in your crop region. Now you can see what just happened to mine then. I brought that crop region in and it shot the level heads back to where they were. Does that happen to anyone else?
Yeah. I had to redo it again.
Yeah, okay. Sorry about that. I probably should have said, and that's why I get you to perhaps adjust your crop region first before you do your level heads. So making, I wouldn't call that a mistake, but I mean, you know, if it happens to you, you know, once, then hopefully you won't do it again. You'll know to expect it. Yeah, so that's annoying. Yeah, so looking at the example sheet here, notice where the crop region is going to be adjusted to. See where the model's cropped through here. Just to include the bathroom wall. To about there. So adjust your crop region well before you start adjusting these things. So. thing I'd like you to do in section A, before I forget, is if you zoom into the existing building here, can you see the speckles here through here that indicate or are showing us the surface pattern on the wall at the northern end of the building? Can you see the wall here? What I'd like you to do is, can you very carefully just select that wall? Okay, just very carefully select it and right mouse on it and do a hide in view by element. Okay, hide in view by elements. So we're just hiding that one wall. And there's also a wall down here. You can see just through the floor. Can you see the wall through here? See the speckles? So again, if you can just very carefully, you might actually just put your mouse pointer down here and hit the tab key until you've selected the brick veneer wall itself. And again, once you've selected it, just right mouse click and do a hide in view by elements. And then what I'd like you to do, from this section, from this view, I'd like you to right mouse click on the view name, section A, and then create a view template from it, as we did for the first of our elevations. So create view template from view, and call it sections. And again, just personalise it with your initials. Okay, that'll take you into the View Templates dialog. You don't need to do anything more here. You can close this. And then, while we're in this view, if you can go to the View Properties and go down to Identity Data and View Template and click None. Find the view template you just created called Sections, and then click OK to officially assign the view template to the view. Okay, so this is Section A. This is the template we just created from Section A, and we're now going to assign it to Section A. When you've done that, I'll get you to just open up Section B. And assign the same view template to Section B. And having done that, you can then adjust your crop region. Now, just note with the crop region for the sections, the bottom part of the crop region is not going to sit on the GL level line. It's going to sit down here so that we can see the entire footing. Okay, so we need to be able to see the entire footing. So keep the bottom of the crop down here underneath. And then just bring it in on the right hand side and then just adjust your level heads. Okay, when you're happy enough that the crop region is in the right position, you can then just turn it off. Same with section A. Alright, so just while we're here in section A, so what we need to do obviously is add the call out for our west wall detail. So before we do that, can I get you to zoom in to this section here, so just above this louver window, just get in nice and close. Can you see this line work running through here? Now these, if you, just in this area here, if you actually hit the tab key, you should be able to pre-select one of these. What they are is actually ceiling battens. So they're just what are they? A 45 by 70 timber batten that just runs underneath the rafter to actually attach the ceiling to. But what I'd like to do is actually just hide them so that they're not, just to simplify this particular view. So you can see that there's actually 1, 2, 3, 4 of them visible in this view. There's actually 5, I think. There's the 5th one there. So can I get you to you'll have to just select the first one, and then control select, select the first one, and then if you can, just carefully control select the second, third, fourth and fifth. So I'm actually just holding my control key down while I'm clicking each one. When you've done that, when you've got, if you can't manage to sort of select them all together, you might have to do one by one. But what I want you to do is just right mouse on them and do a hide in view by elements, just to clear that area.
I don't get the highlighting like you did.
Okay, so we'll add the call out now for our wall detail. So to do that, just I guess zoom in to this area of the section A. Go to the View tab, and on the Create panel, go to Call Out. So click the bottom of the Call Out button and choose Rectangle. And just click and drag and place a call out around this part of the building to about there. Now notice the right hand side of the call out down here is just inside this wall line. Okay, so note where the call out stops on the right hand side, just inside that line there. Now once you've placed the call out itself, just pre-select it and then select it, and then using the drag bubble here on the head, so click and hold and then drag that up and over and place it up here. Just clear that. Now that call out, is now added to the browser, so it'll actually appear under sections building section, and it'll be known as section A callout 1. Now what I'd like you to do is rename it and we're going to call this one West Wall. So West Wall. Now just single click to highlight the name of the call out or the call out in the browser here. Just single click on it. You can double click on it. You can actually open up the view itself. So we're just going to do a few things here just to get this ready for notes. So one of the first things we're going to do is with the view name selected, just go up to the properties of the view, up to the this area here, the type selector. Now, with our section views, for instance, we can actually, I guess, classify them or reclassify them as details, building sections, or wall sections. So we can actually reclassify the view itself. Now this particular call out, we're actually going to classify it or reclassify it and call it a wall section. So we're actually going to change its view type to wall section. Now it doesn't really do much to the view itself, or it doesn't do anything to the view itself. The only thing that it does do is it actually creates a new branch in our browser called sections wall section, and it places it underneath that branch. See where it is now? So it's taken it from building sections and it's put it in wall sections. Okay, so once you've done that, you can then come down to the annotation scale and change that to 1:20. You can then hide the level lines, so we don't need to see the level lines, so we can hide those. So you can either use the shortcut or you can do a hide in view by category. You will also have to just re-hide these tile battens as we did in section A. So they're a hide in view by element. Okay, you could probably leave the bottom one there if it's still there. Yeah, we can probably leave that one there. If you have hidden it, so if you have hidden it, you can actually bring it back by going down to your light bulb down here, which is Reveal Hidden Elements, clicking directly on it there, and clicking Unhide Element, and then go back to your normal view. Okay, so we'll just leave that one visible, but the rest will hide. And we'll do that back in section A as well. So if you've hidden this bottom one in section A, I'll get you to unhide it. Now the only other thing you'll need to do here, perhaps, is when you mouse over the crop region, you'll notice that there is actually another dashed region around this one as well. So that second dashed crop region is known as an annotation crop. So that will give you some grief when you're trying to put notes in this view. So we need to actually turn it off. Just keep the model crop there for the moment. So you can appreciate over in the properties of the view, under extents, you've got the view is cropped. We've got crop region visible, so that can stay ticked for the moment. But just make sure you untick annotation crop. Okay? By doing that, you won't see that that other dashed crop. Okay? So that's as far as we'll go with the 1:20 detail today. We'll come back to this because we have to add detail components and notation. So that's that'll be next session now. Back to section A. So again, I'll just reveal hidden elements. Select that lower batten, unhide it. Okay, so again, we're going to, we have to obviously put in some detail items here to indicate the timber construction, or the timber members that are used in the construction of the walls, for instance, and insulation and so forth. What we can do today, quickly, is add the room tags to this view. So, do you know how to add room tags? And when I say room tags, they were the tags that we used in the floor plan to name our rooms. So we can actually, we can use the same process or the same tool to actually add room names to our sections. So from architecture, we go to room and area, and we click room, tag room. Now, when we do that, you'll see that the various areas that we've created, the rooms, highlight in blue. And when you move down within the spaces, you'll see the room tag appear with the square metre text. As you move from room to room, you'll see it change. See how it changes depending on what the room, if we've named the room. And you can do the same just with section B. So room tag, so lounge, dining and kitchen. Now, while we are in section B, there's not a lot more that we have to do to section B. So what I will get you to do before our next session is run through and add all the notes, dimensions and tags for all the elevations, and just add notes and tags to your sections. Okay, notes and tags to your sections as far as you can go with that. All right. Again, don't worry about notes for the detail because we have to add some other components into the 1:20 detail, but you can now sort of quite easily put in all of your notes and tags. Now, just something I wanted to show you with the notes, and I'll perhaps do it on the south elevation. Now there's a note that you're going to put up here for the roof itself. Now, notes for elevations and sections are all 2 millimetre. Okay, all 2 millimetre. So I'll just show you this quickly. Now, please note, with notes, leader notes like this, where the arrow is on the right-hand side, the rule is that you set the text to align right. Alright? So if the arrow is on the left-hand side, then left align. Now, this note is indicating the type of cladding and the colour, and also the roof pitch in degrees, so it's 5 degrees. Now, to get the little degrees symbol, everyone watching? Okay. What you need to do is, I suggest add the note first, and then double click on it to edit the note. Put your cursor there, and if you then right mouse in this position, you can go to symbols and you can choose one of these symbols in the list here. Okay, so in this case it's the degree sign, and it pops it in for you. Okay, so this is a new feature in 2018. Alright, so if anyone is using 2017, you won't have it. Now, the only other way to do that, let me show you. If you actually had to put in the R symbol, okay, so there's actually a note here. Okay, so note the R symbol for registered trademark. Okay, so the question will come up, how do you actually put that in? Also note that this particular note has an arrow this way and an arrow this way, so it has 2 arrows coming off it. I'll talk about that shortly, but this symbol here, if this was a registered trademark symbol, for instance, I'll just delete that. Now what you do is right mouse, go to symbols, and then you go down to the bottom to other down here. So what that does is it actually opens up a dialog called character map. Now this is a Windows thing. This is not Revit, this is Windows. It's part of your operating system. Now if you're looking for a symbol that's not in that quick list, for instance copyright or registered trademark, there it is there. So you select it, click select, and then click copy. Leave that open, come back to Revit to your text, and then just right mouse there and choose paste. Okay, so that's how you actually introduce something that's not in that quick list from the character map dialog. Now, if you have to put 2 arrows on a piece of text, select the text and use one of these here, so arrow left, arrow right. So that will add another arrow to the right hand side, the left hand side. That will remove it. Okay, add. So that will add a second one, or a third one, fourth, and you can keep going. Okay, that button there will actually remove them. Okay, so if I click that and I click minus and minus again, it takes off both arrows. So I click, that's a right one, that's a left one. So that's how I've achieved that, the dual arrow on that, on the other note. Okay, so one text note, but 2 arrows. Now the thing is that with this one, the arrow on the left is coming from the top of the note, and the arrow on the right is coming from the bottom. So again, if I scrunch that up a bit, so again, I can control where the arrow is coming off the note with these controls here. Okay, so that's how you control where the position of the arrow in regard to the note itself. All right.
Do you put the text in the middle then? Is it the left or right?
The text could go in the middle. I think in that case I've actually I've put it left aligned. So in this example here, the text is left aligned, but I've got the arrow coming off the bottom there to the right and the top left. Okay. So that's as much as I can tell you about text, I guess, and arrows. That's clear enough? All right. Trying to think of anything else. With the so don't forget some of the windows on your elevations have the word F on them. So the F means fixed panel. Don't forget those. And on the sliding door here, there's an arrow that I've put that indicates the direction of, or indicates that this part is the sliding part and which direction it slides. Now, that's nothing special. That is two thin detail lines drawn in. Okay, so just draw them in roughly as I've done there. 2 detail lines. Don't forget to tag the north elevation. So again, that's just a case of tag by category with a leader, like that. Now once you've placed the tag, you will have to update the tag and change it to window 3. Alright, so I'm trying to think of anything else that I need to show you. I think that's pretty much it. So, like I said, in our next session, I'll go through and we'll just work through adding in the detail up here, including the insulation. Alright, so once that's all in and all your notes are in and so forth. I mean, basically that's the elevations and sections finished. All right. Now, please don't go ahead and add all of the don't go ahead and add all of this line work, okay, in the joists. All right. Please don't do that just yet. I've got a quick fix for all that, something that will do that quite automatically. Of course, we will have to put in these ones up here, but I'd like you to wait until next session. All right. Okay, so I'll leave it with you. Are there any questions? Yes.
Did you say to do the dimensions as well?
Add the dimensions, yes. Yeah, put the dimensions in. Yeah, just make sure that you use the correct dimension style. This is the dimension style that we use for the floor plan, and that's the tick dimension style. Okay. The OH and the louver WHH again is added to the dimension by double clicking on the text here and putting it in the below section. Okay, you know what I mean by that? Yep. Okay, so that's part of the dimension below. All right. I think that's it. So, all right. So if you can have all that done for next session, please, and then we'll move on to we'll finish off the sections, and then we'll sort of annotate the detail, 1:20 detail. All right. So thanks everyone.